lounging, son.
Well, welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name's Ryan. I got my lovely co-host Jen with me for another episode of Thought Balloon, and I don't know how to, we're trying to talk about how to put this topic into words. Kind of being a completionist, the need to have everything, especially in a line of comic books. I mean, you got like Batman. There's like 20 Batman books that can come out in a month. The X-Men line continues to grow. I think there's probably like 15 with 3 more announced. Um, so is it necessary? Kind of. I think that's what we're going to talk about. Do you need to have everything? I'm of the mind no, but I also work in a shop and I see people that I will. I mean, it's almost blindly like, oh, if X-Men book is coming out, I have to get it. Like it's not even a second thought. You know what I mean? Like to me, that's crazy. And that's why I said it was kind of hard to like how to like approach this topic. But for me, like I think I argued a lot to customers too. I'm like, the problem isn't necessarily, well, it's both. It's the publisher and the customer. It's the publisher because like when you do that and you know that there are customers that will do it, it keeps them from experiencing other titles because they're like, well, I'm already buying this many X-Men books, for instance, right? I only have so much money. Comic books aren't cheap. When I started collecting, what they were like $1, 25, and now they're 4, and now the norm is starting to be $5. There's a lot of $5 books on the stands, and it's only going to get higher. So it's the publisher's fault in that respect. But I mean, at the same time, I can't blame them because they see the sales and they know that they're going to get money. Same with Batman, right? Same with the crossover. Crossover events, I think, are one of the things I hate the most. And I'm talking to you, but you don't really have to experience it because you don't read Marvel and DC. So it's like it's not something you ever really have to deal with necessarily, right? Like King in Black right now. There are people that are signed up for all King in Black. Dude, some of them are such I don't want to say shitty books, but like they're unnecessary. They don't even need to exist. And so people are spending like this week alone, there was 5 different titles related to the King in Black event. And I'm like, one customer came in yesterday. He's like, "Oh, should I get it?" I'm like, "No, no, dude, you shouldn't." And that's probably not the right thing to say at a comic shop. You're supposed to be selling books, but I would rather sell them something necessary or good. You know, like why are you buying all this? It doesn't make sense. Um, so yeah, but the customers, some customers do like that too. Some they don't care. It's a new X-Men book. I want it. That's all I want. But you know, you complain about not having diverse titles. You complain about not having different characters. You know, maybe like the B list or C list characters getting their own titles. Like for me, I love Green Arrow. He doesn't have a book. Like that pisses me off that I don't have a Green Arrow book. But then there's like 10 Batman books. But then it's because people buy them, so the publishers will keep doing it. When people brought to Marvel's attention, like, oh, you're doing too many events, stop doing it. I think they did. They took a year off where they didn't, and their sales dropped. Like while it pisses me off, like I guess I mean they have to make their money too, but I think there should be a fine line between oversaturating a line of books and giving people other kind of titles. I think Marvel does a little bit better of a job at that, if I'm being honest, because they've had books like Squirrel Girl and Moon Girl and Dinosaur, like really like offbeat books. But yeah, it becomes a mess, and I think that I don't think enough people really talk about this. I talk about it in the shop with Nick and stuff. But
That's something I hear often though, like there are too much titles of the same thing, like too much, like you said, the comic that had like 5 different ones on the same day. Like it's something I hear often. People, I mean, around me, people don't like that, but it's still happening, and I get that for some people the whole point is like collecting, right? But that comes to the same question of like, personally, myself, I don't see myself as a comic collector. I see myself as a comic reader because I do not collect comics. Like I don't purchase everything of the same series, or I don't like have like all of them. You know, like I don't see myself as a collector, and I get that
I mean,
people who wants to collect, they want to get everything of the same, like everything, no matter what, even if it's not important, they're gonna get it. Either it's like posters, figurines, like stuff like that. They're gonna get everything. I'm not like that because don't have, first, I don't have the money. Second, I don't have the time. Third, I don't have the interest in it. But that's still something like really real happening around us. And I feel like the biggest difference is really like a comic collector versus a comic reader. You
Right, but I
know?
mean, you get variants sometimes, right? And I almost forgot that variants are a whole nother beast. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
I used to get variants though, but I stopped. Like 2020 was my last year of like buying single issues and buying variants and stuff like that.
okay.
Um, but sometimes I'm still gonna like if I see something really beautiful, I'm still gonna splurge because I like to put them on my wall and stuff, you know?
And that
Um,
makes sense. And I was talking to a customer about that. This guy buys every book he gets at least one of the variants for. And I'm like, what do you do
why?
with them? Like, what do you do
Yeah.
with them? Are you hanging them up? Because that's the only reason to get a variant, in my opinion. I don't get variants because I can't hang up my comics. There's nowhere in my house for me to hang them up. So what am I? I'm buying it for the art to put in a box that I'm not going to look at maybe once a year when I'm organizing. So why? And there, I mean, dude, the Eternals book that I talked to you about a little while ago, that had
Yeah.
like 20 covers. 20. What the fuck do we need 20 covers of one comic book for? It's ridiculous. What is it for? To up the sales. Why? Because the publishers know that there are people out there that will buy multiple covers, and that props up sales and it raises sales for just that issue. Um, I mean, we were going over the order for that's coming in next week, yesterday at the shop, and there's a new Spider-Man book, like 10 covers. And it's like, again, it's like, it's who do you blame? Do you blame the publisher for doing it, or do you blame the customer that enables the publisher to do it because the publisher sees that they're making the money? You can't really blame the publisher, I guess, in a certain respect, because what are they in business for? They're in business to make money. They don't want to lose money, so making the money on the sales for that sometimes enables them to do books. Like I mentioned, and this might be why they are able to do books like Squirrel Girl or Moon Girl Dinosaur, right? Because the sales from a Spider-Man book makes it level out so where they can have a lower selling book. But it's fucking stupid. The 90s are back. I mean, I know that you didn't grow up reading comics in the 90s, but it is exactly the same. It's a parallel, and I've mentioned this to you multiple times too. I
Yeah.
think I talk about it at the shop. The glow in the dark covers, the holographic covers, the foil covers, the lenticular covers, the die cut. I mean, all this shit is all back. Like I saw the Berserker book, the Keanu Reeves book. That book had like fucking 15 covers. Had the Virgin cover, had the foil cover, had the variant, then the version of that variant, then the 1 in 500. I mean, dude, it had a 1 in 1,000 signed by Keanu Reeves. Oh, it's just it's frustrating as a fan that, well, I mean, I guess if I was into that, I wouldn't be as frustrated, but I just you're it's just preying on, if you like variants, I mean, to each their own, I guess, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, it just shows what our society is currently right now. Because you know that subject that we're talking about, I first saw it um on Instagram on a profile. His name is Nerd and Breakfast, and he's a minimalist. He was talking about this subject because for him it was like against his very nature as a consumer, right? And I was talking about this with Abby too, and Abby is also a minimalist in some ways in her life, um, and she was saying the same thing, you know. So I think it's really part of like our consumers habit and who we are as a society, and it speaks levels when like we purchase 20 covers of the same comic that we will never like we won't read 20 of them. It's the same story inside. We will not
Yeah.
read them and we will not hang them on the wall. We will just, like you said, put them in a box and do absolutely nothing with it. And why do we, I mean, why do we do that as a consumer, right? You said who's to blame. I wouldn't say blame, but I say that publishers do this because consumers participate in it.
Yeah.
You know, they're not to blame per se. I don't want to blame anyone because I do understand why people enjoy. But if consumers stops buying 20 covers of the same comic, publishers won't have the interest of doing it. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah, and the problem is too, it's not like if they stop doing, let's say tomorrow, right, or next week, there's no more variant covers. There's just one cover of a book. It's not like those people. that are buying multiple covers are just going to take that money and then buy different comics. That's not a given either. So it's, and for them it's collecting. It's like they're collecting the art. I mean, I collect comics. I have boxes behind me. You know what I mean? I have boxes in my bedroom. I have boxes in the fucking family room. I have boxes in my shed. Like they're everywhere. But that's also accumulated over 20 years. That's a long time to be collecting, you know? And then I get rid of stuff sometimes, like whether I give it away or I sell it. But part of it for me is like I don't have to have every cover. There's times where I'm like, damn, I really like that cover. But in
Yeah.
that instance, what I do is I'm like, which one do I like more? And then I just buy the one I like more. I will never pay over cover price for a fucking cover. Like to me, that's like, why am I paying $50 for this cover? And the only time it makes sense is if it's an incentive. If the retailer has to order, like I said, 1 in 500, 1 in 1,000, to get that Keanu Reeves signature book, the retailer had to order 1,000
Yeah.
copies of that book. Who the fuck is going to sell 1,000 copies of a comic book? I don't think any comic book store has 1,000 customers coming into their shop. So, I mean, luckily, Boom Studios has a really good program where they will allow you to return what you don't sell. And sometimes they audit you. Like, let's say you ordered 1,000, you're like, oh, I'm returning 900. They may be like, okay, what's going on here? You know.
Yeah.
But for the most part, their returnability is really cool. That's why a lot of retailers take chances on titles and they don't make you return it. Like the way they look at it, like, okay, so now we can, all these extra copies that we couldn't sell, maybe we give them away to get people interested in the title, and then maybe they'll pick up a trade, right? Something like that.
But you know, it's funny because I was talking not even about that subject specifically, but at some point I was looking into because I was tired of buying single issues for like the variant covers for the art to hang on my wall. I was like, well, I could invest money and purchase either fan art or original art and stuff like that. So I was talking with people and there was a guy who told me, you're spending your money on variant covers. Like, imagine if you put this money on an original art page that gets more valued over time because it's an original like art. Like it's an actual piece of art, you know, like it's something that you can hang on your wall and it has value. It's like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like precious, whereas a variant cover is just that, a variant cover. Like the comic inside is exactly the same. You want, like, most of the time I don't purchase those super expensive variant covers that sells on eBay for $700. Like I don't buy that. I don't have the money for that. So my variant cover that I purchase, it's the same value as the original one. So might as well purchase something that actually have value and is actually a piece of art, you know?
Yeah, I think that the problem is though is like in that moment it's a lot easier to drop $4.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're not thinking like, oh, okay, well I could always, instead of doing this, like I guess if every time you get that urge to buy a variant cover, you take that $4 and you save it, and you keep saving it until you have enough for art. But like, when's that gonna happen? Really? You know
But
what I mean?
it's exactly like the urge of why do we have this urge of purchasing? Like,
I don't know. I don't have
what's
it.
the emergency?
I have more of an urge to just buy comics. Like now, I don't have the urge to buy. My problem more is like I keep buying before I have a chance to read everything.
Yeah,
Like
me too. I have that problem, but I
I
used to have that urge to purchase every single brand. Like, I like seeing. Oh, and that's another thing. Social media. Social media plays a big part in this. Like, if you have 15 people on your feed posting about the same variant cover, you're gonna feel that little like heat inside of you saying, "Oh my god, I need it," and you're gonna run to the store because that's how social media work, right? And I feel like for me that was the most dangerous part, like having Instagram and like having this emergency of buying something. Like, wow, this cover art is beautiful. It's like I need it, I need it, I need it, and then running to the shop and then it's not on my wall. It's not like it's in a box somewhere. So like what was the emergency, you know?
see for I don't get that urge. I think that it's funny to hear you say that because like I don't really get to talk to people too much about like that urge of needing like the multiple covers, because I kind of talk to the customers at the shop, but I more tell them like, what do you do with all of them? I just straight up ask them like, I'm like, does it just end up in your box? And they're like, yeah. And like, I don't want to like lose a bunch of sales at the shop either. I'll give my opinion, but like, I'm not gonna be like, oh, you're stupid for buying all these covers, because there's another girl, but they get a good discount, but she gets every cover of everything, every book that she has. Like, so I think I pulled her books this week, and she had 60 books that came out just this week, multiple prices. I mean, like, she got every Berserker cover, she got everything from every publisher. That's just what she does. And like, even with her discount, she still spent like $400 this week, and it's like, dude, why? Like, even if you get the discount, like, you don't have to spend the money just because you get it cheaper. I mean, it's the same thing for me. I get a good discount, but it doesn't mean I get 25 titles a week either.
Yeah.
I only had 6 books come out this week.
But so I was talking to Andrew from Comic Book Campaign, and because he shared like he has an online store, and he shared an eBay profile that was selling the Berserk comic, but like this one for 1,000 copy, like the thing that's anyway, it wasn't even out yet, and it was already selling on eBay for like $700, if it's not even more. And I was like, I told him like, even if I had the money, I would not purchase it. Even if I had $700 to lose, like if I was a billionaire, I would not purchase this. I don't need it. Like, what's the point of spending this much money? Like, anyway.
I mean, you're buying it for the autograph. You're buying
Yeah,
it because Keanu Reeves signed it. I mean, that's hey,
do
some
you
people are
really
fans.
need it?
I
Honestly,
mean, we sold ours. We sold ours for like 14, but we got it graded for them too. So we sent it to CGC. I mean, I haven't seen it. It said CGC probably, but like, you have to think about it, okay? Like, usually a 1 in 50 goes for $50.
Yeah.
Normally, right? Because you have to buy 50 copies, so it's rare. But in this instance, the 1 in 25s, the 1 in 50s, the 1 in 100s, because so many people tried to get that 1,000, it decreased the value of the 1 in 100. The 1 in 100 was going for like $20 on eBay. Yeah, it's the variant game is it's, I mean, we could go on and on about variants. I think it's just it's almost like an it's almost like a necessary evil, I guess, within the industry, because like, it's another thing that helps prop stuff up. It's kind of like speculators, which I hate, and I've
Yeah.
talked about. Like, they
We all hate
still
them.
they still funnel money into the industry. The industry needs the money where it can get it, kind of,
Mhm.
But at the same time, like, if a speculator walks in the shop and we know a book is hot, I'm not going to sell it to you. I'm going to sell it to my customer that comes in every week, even if they're not a subscriber. And because we have a lot of people that don't have subscription services, but they come every single Wednesday. And, like, if we know that a book is hot and that we may not, or not, or if we're short, we'll just even hold it for them, knowing that they're going to get it, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't want it to sell out. Yeah, the variant thing is weird. I think more so, when I said I wanted to talk about the subject, it was more the completionist, because I know that you're a Hellboy fan and you love the Magnolaverse. You probably get all of it, right?
I
In
used
terms
to
of
be
series, I mean.
yeah, I used to have most of them, but now I stopped buying them. I stopped buying. I'm buying in trades now, so I stopped buying all the new singles that came out, all the new series of Hellboy that came out, and everything. I just didn't feel the need to have all of them. I used to feel this need inside me of being like, I need to have all, like, my goal is to have a complete collection of Hellboy. That was my full-time goal as a comic collector. That was like, I need this. This is my dream. But the more I started reading other stuff, and the more I started discovering more about the comics community and everything, I was like, you know what? I don't need them. I don't need all of them. I can just buy hardcovers and trades and just read that, and I'm gonna be satisfied with what I have?
Yeah, I mean, and that's it's funny because, like, I set a goal, which it's an insane goal. I don't even know if I'll ever do it. I wanted to get every issue of Amazing Spider-Man, which is like over it's over 800 issues, and I have a lot, but nowhere near. And it's going to be very expensive. But for me, it was like, oh, that would be cool to kind of try to do, and then eventually I can leave it to my kid, and she could do whatever she wants with it. And if she sold it, that would be a lot of money that she would make, you know.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like where I was at with that. Hellboy, I've thought about doing, but like you probably have way more of the single issues than I do, because I started with it in trade, and I didn't go back. I went back to get the first appearance, and that was it for like older stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but in terms of like today, what they do, I think trying to follow a line of comic books is insane.
It's hard. Like I use the thing is exactly that. It's super hard, super difficult. I used to have like, that's the I printed out like a Wikipedia page or something with like all the numbers and all the series, and I used to check them every time I was purchasing one, because I wanted to have all of them and everything. But it's too hard, it's too difficult. Sorry, the sun is in my face.
Sure.
It's too difficult, like, to have everything, and it was so. I mean, I get why people do it, but for me, I was too curious about everything else, because collecting Hellboy was like taking all of my time. Like when I was at a convention, I was only looking for that. I was only putting my money in that, and it restricted me, like I didn't have the time and the interest of looking for anything else. But now, like, ever since I stopped, I discovered so many new things and so many new series, and I discovered more of what I like as a reader. I think it's like putting you in a box, like when you start, like, you have to just be careful, because when you start collecting one thing, one specific thing, you lose yourself. Like you lose interest in other things, and you stop looking at other things. Anyway, for me, that was my personal experience with that, and that's why I kind of stopped doing it, because I wanted to discover more.
Yeah. See, for me, I think you can do both. You know what I mean? Like, I think that when you're like modern stuff, if you're reading stuff that's still coming out and you're trying to collect everything, yes, that can be hard to buy all the X-Men books and then also have money to read other stuff, especially when they just keep increasing the line. If you're
Mm.
on a limited budget, right? But for me, I like the hunt. You know what I mean? Like I like that part about comics. I miss, like, there's not a lot of, when I was younger there was more comic book stores with back issues. Now it's not the case. I guess you could look online. It's not as fun when you're like looking online. Oh, okay, I can get this on eBay. Okay, I can get this on this
Oh
site.
no.
Like that's not as fun to me. But like digging through the bins and finding an issue you're missing, I think that you can walk both lines. You cannot focus. It'll take you longer, obviously, because you only have so much money to spend. But I think it's fun to kind of like, okay, I'm gonna collect this. I'm gonna find it, and then like once it's done, you're like, yes, I have the collection. And whether or not at the end of the day, you're satisfied because you're like, okay, now what do I do? I have it all. For me, I mean, mine's gonna take a long time. Mine's gonna take a very long
Yeah.
time to get all that stuff. So like, I don't have to worry about like nearing the end. Like, I probably will be 60 before I see, it may be older before I see all of them. But I get feeling like it kind of takes up your time, and I think that for me, I don't see it if you're getting like the back issues. I mean, I think you can do both. If it's old comics and then what's coming out, it's different, because like the old comics are always going to be the old comics.
Yeah.
That's not going to grow in terms of how much you need to get. But what comes out now does grow, right? Like, they're constantly expanding Star Wars books. They're constantly expanding Batman books. So that can be overwhelming when you're trying to feel like you need to complete and get everything.
But
Um,
yeah, that's the thing. It's that I think I really realized I wanted to stop collecting Hellboy, for example, when like they came out with new stuff, because there's still new Hellboy series coming out, right? Like I still see them on a daily basis. Like some of them are new and everything, and it was too hard to keep up. Like I didn't even know that I'm just not that person, Like I can't
yeah,
keep up with that. I can always be on the internet looking, okay, there's a new series that's gonna come out that date. There's this one that's gonna, like, I can't do that. And I feel like that's just me personally as a consumer, right? And as a reader. Like I said, I don't see myself as a collector. I see myself as a reader. And it's just, I think we all have like different ways to like purchase, and we're all different consumers, right? We all have different ways of purchasing. I don't know. It's just not for me, I guess.
I mean, you have a collection, so you kind of are. I mean, I'm
I
looking
have
right
a
at it, so
collection, but there's no value. I don't hunt. I just buy things because I
it
like
has. I
them.
know, but it has value. I don't think the term collector necessarily means that you're collecting it for value. You have a collection of stuff that you love, and you don't collect it for the value. You collect it for the love of the medium. You know what I mean? So like
Yeah,
you're
because
a
I read
collect
them.
you're a collector, but you're not a collector in terms of like, oh, I need this because it's worth something. It's worth
Exactly.
something. It's worth something to you personally. Like for me too, it's like I don't collect comic books because I want it for monetary reasons. That's just a bonus to me.
Yeah.
I collect it because I love comic books. I mean, I just bought a bunch of stuff on eBay that's absolutely like it's worthless. It's like $1. It's worth $1. It's not worth anything. It's worth only something to me. Or if I'm buying old issues, I don't need a 9.0. Like I bought a bunch of stuff related to WandaVision,
Mm.
right? I bought it before it went up, and I didn't do it because I thought it was going to go up in value. I bought it because I'm like, oh, I want to read these in the original form they were made, because when they were made originally they were on newsprint. So like the colorists
Mm.
colored it based on the kind of paper it was going to be on. Now when they reprinted it and it's on that bright white paper, it like almost hurts your eyes staring at the coloring on it.
Yeah.
So like I bought like low grade copies, but they all, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
but they all went up. So for me, I don't know. I don't think collecting is a bad term. You know what I
No,
mean?
it's not a bad term. It's just I don't hunt. I don't look for specific things. I
Yeah.
don't like I purchase what I see at the store that looks interesting. That's why I have a difficult time identifying with collectors because yeah, I don't I feel like collecting is really like buying a lot of the same thing for sure. Like I buy a lot of comics, yes, but people who like very like collect like really like intensely, they're gonna buy, like you said, everything of Amazing Spider-Man, everything of Hellboy, everything, and I'm not like that. But
Yeah.
we all have I guess there's different definition and multiple definition, but I don't see it as a bad word. I just don't see it in myself.
And then I think that there's some people that like if all they buy is because we have a customer too that only buys Spider-Man, but he doesn't buy a lot of books. He only likes that's his favorite character and that's all he'll buy. So luckily for him, there's not 20 Spider-Man titles, but I think buying it. I think that overall, like buying a whole line of comic books to me it's kind of stupid when you limit yourself, because that's I think that the main point of what you've said and what I've said is about limiting what you buy because you need to have this, right?
Yeah,
um
because it's like you're buying just because you want a complete collection or a complete series. You're not buying because you're actually enjoying reading them or enjoying like I don't know, putting them on your wall or anything. You're just buying because you want a complete collection, right?
that's funny that I've yeah, okay, now that you've said that, you've made me realize stuff I've done. I
Mm,
bought, yeah, because like
we
I
all
bought,
did it. We all
yeah,
I still do it sometimes.
I know, but I stopped, right? Like I stopped getting Amazing Spider-Man a year ago. I think it was a year ago. I think it was right, no, maybe a year and a half ago, right before the pandemic. And then I sold all the issues of that particular run. I'm like, I don't like it. I don't want to keep buying it. And now look at me. Now I have to go back and I'm gonna rebuy it because I want to have that complete collection. Like it's just like something in me just is like that'd be cool to have
But it's
all of
okay
it.
if you do.
Yeah.
Like
But again, but you just said it's like I literally sometimes I will blindly buy a comic book because I like the character even though I can't stand it, and as I'm reading it, I'm hating it and I hate myself for reading it. Like I think there was like because I love the Flash. The Flash is one of my favorite characters. It was the first comic book I read.
yeah.
So I think there was a run. Oh, this was years ago. It was when DC was doing like the New 52. It was that era when Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo were doing their Batman run. There was a Flash run, and I did not like it, and I kept buying it because I just love the Flash, and I'm like, this is fucking horrible. This is not good. Same thing. I did it with Green Lantern at the time. I did it, and my brother has done it too, but he has a little more self control than me because he stopped getting single issue comics a while ago. He
Yeah.
only gets trades. He got rid of everything that he didn't need in his collection, and he really like limited himself to what he buys. I don't know. I have a hard time like limiting. I mean, I'll limit my pull list. I'll cut down stuff like that, and I think it's a little bit easier for me to be like, you know what, I don't like this. I'm going to drop it off my pull. But I mean, look what I did. And now that I did that, now I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna get every fucking issue of Amazing Spider-Man, no matter how many years it takes me. Like that's a little bit ridiculous.
That's why, like, we can't say, we can't blame anyone, we can't, like, criticize anyone because we all do it. We all do it. Even if, like, people say, I cannot say that I never do it. I still do it sometimes. I used to do it. Like, it's just the way we consume. It's just the way that we purchase. It's just the way, and not just comic books. I'm talking about everything. My boyfriend collects video games. It's the same thing. Video games universe, comic books universe, it's the same thing. We all have the same issues. We all have the same, like, I need to have everything, like, all Nintendo 64 games. Like, I need to have all of them, even if they're very, very, very bad, you know? Like, just to make a parallel, my boyfriend was telling me that there was a video game. It's a Hello Kitty game. It's super expensive. But people are actually, like, they're looking for it. They want to buy it because it's super, super expensive. But let's be honest, they will never play it. They have no interest in it. They're still gonna buy it to have this full set. And it's the same
That's
for
crazy.
comics.
That's crazy to me. I mean, it's
You
like
know?
people are grading fucking video game cartridges. What the fuck are you spending money to put a piece of plastic inside another piece of plastic to look at? A video game is meant to be played. A
It's the
comic
same for
book.
comics.
No, I know, but I mean, this is. What are you gonna do? Just look at the piece of plastic? At least the comic book cover, you
But
can
what do
look
you
at the cover art. Hold on. At least you can look at the comic book cover. I was just talking about this yesterday. It's fucking funny that you're bringing this up. But at the same time, I don't believe in grading. I will never buy a graded comic book. I will never send in my book to be graded. If I want to hang my comic book up on the wall, I'll buy those $10 fucking things
Yeah.
that you could slot the book in. That way, if I want to take it out and look through it, I can. Or a frame. Like, to me, a comic book is meant to be read. It's not meant to be encased in a fucking plastic coffin. A video game is meant to be played. It's not meant to be sat on a shelf. It's stared at the fucking cartridge. It doesn't make sense.
It's the same thing, but, like, it comes back to the same, like, let's be honest. People who purchase 20 variant covers of the same comics, it's not to read, it's not to hang on the wall, it's most of the time, like 99% of the time, to have them graded and, like,
Oh yeah.
do nothing with it. It's That's it. And it's okay if you're like that. Like, I know people who love graded comics, and it's fine, like 100%. I respect you, but I will never do this.
Yeah.
I don't see the interest in it, you know?
Yeah, I don't see the point in spending money to get it put inside of a piece of plastic. I mean, I've had a couple graded comics and I bought them solely to flip. Like that was the only reason I got it. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try to like buy comics and then I'm gonna try to sell them. I'm trying to try and get them cheap and sell. And some of them I made money on. Some of them I lost money on. And then at the end of the day, it was just I broke even. I didn't even make money.
It's a
And
gambling.
yeah, so I don't know. And that's another thing. Like just because it's graded means it's more valuable. Like it's the same fucking book.
Yeah. Who decides, you know, like, why did we decide that, what's the CBCS or CGC, they have the power to give more value to a comic? Like, who decided that? Like,
Yeah, and then let's be honest, man. If you have a friend that works at CGC and you're like, "Hey, give me a little bit higher of a grade on my book because I spent a lot of money with you." You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
you're at the mercy. It's not a machine that's grading this fucking book. I mean,
exactly.
I did a whole episode on this with Mario where we talked about is it necessary? I don't find it necessary. I mean, some people will say they're doing it to preserve it. I kind of get that a little bit, just a little bit, because if you have like a book from the 40s or the 50s or the 60s where, you know, newsprint is very delicate,
You have to, like, protect
I
it.
I kind of see like, okay, like I'm worried that this could get ruined. I'm gonna send it to get graded so that it's encased and
Hmm.
it can't get oxygenized, you know what I mean, from the air. But even then, it's like, fuck, man, like you could be spending hundreds of dollars just to get it put in that case.
But it's all linked. It's all linked. Everything is linked. Like, buying 20 copies of the same, like 20 variant covers of the same comic, or buying all the series of a same character, having them graded. It's all linked together as a way that we purchase. It's just consumer habits. It's just that, literally just that. And I don't think we can change anything because if like personally I'm not like that, but other people are like that, and they enjoy that way of buying and they enjoy that way of collecting. So I guess we could say that the industry is made for all types of people. The industry couldn't live on the way that I purchase, because I only purchase hardcovers. Like we talked about this. If we stop doing single issues, like I would like it, the industry will collapse because you need the single issues to make money, right? So the industry needs all of those different type of consumers. I mean, in my opinion, I feel like we built up this industry, this comic industry, to work on this pattern of like 20 variant covers to have the money to, like you said, create new series and stuff like that. So like we build this industry to be like this, to fit different profiles of consumers. And that's just how it is, unfortunately. Like I don't believe that we can change, because if we change something, someone is going to get mad or the industry is going to collapse. Like you don't have a good balance, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you put it perfectly. I don't even think I have anything else I could add. Yeah, that was good. I'll be running in circles if I keep trying to like talk about like the subject that we're talking about. I think it's kind of morphed into like an interesting conversation. You know what I mean? Like we
I
talked
would be
about.
curious though to hear about someone who actually buys those 20 different variant covers. Like I want to know, like, why do you buy them? What do you do with them? What's your opinion? Like, I want to have
Yeah,
this conversation because I'm just
yeah.
curious. Like, it's nice to talk with people who have different opinions, especially on that subject, because I don't see the interest in it, but I would be curious to see why. What is your interest in it? Like, explain
Yeah.
it to me?
I mean, like you said, you said there's all different types of purchasers, there's all different types of collectors. You know what I mean? That's really
Yeah.
what it is. It's different types of collectors. You are a collector too. You just collect trade paperbacks and hardcovers. You know what I mean? You don't that like you're the type of collector that doesn't need to have everything, or
Yeah,
you don't seek stuff out, you let stuff come to you. So
exactly.
that's the type of collector that you are. I'm the type of collector where like I want single issues, I want hardcovers. If I really love a series, I want all the singles and I want the hardcover as well. Like it's if it's an Ed Brubaker book, that's how I am. Like I will support them. I'm the type of collector that believes in like supporting the creators that you love. I
Yeah.
think that's where I kind of come from, especially if it's like independent. You know what I mean? Because like independent comic books, you don't make a lot of money.
Yeah.
You don't get into comic books because you want to be a fucking millionaire. You get into comic books because you love the medium. And then there's the collectors that want all the variant covers. There's the collectors that I want all Star Wars. I want all of the tie-in events. I want all Batman, right? Or whatever. And there's nothing wrong with either one of them. I think that we just we just don't agree with it.
Exactly.
I think that that's just what it is. So I'm not trying to shame. I don't think either one of us is trying to shame anybody for collecting the way they do. I think it's ridiculous to buy 20 comics of the same book, and you like you said, you're not even reading all of them. And like comic books are meant to be read. But if that's the way you like to collect, cool. I also would like to kind of hear people's thoughts. If you are the type of person that just I only buy X-Men books, or I only when I buy a book, I need every single cover. Share them in the comments below. You can also email us at the thecomicloungepod@gmail.com. I'll forward these emails to Jen too, if you don't want it to be public about what your opinions on it.
I
Yeah,
mean, we
this
will
is
always, like, I will always respect your opinion no matter what. So,
yeah,
like,
same
don't be
here.
afraid. Like, just share it. The goal is to have a conversation, not to, like,
Point,
pinpoint someone, you
yeah,
know?
not to point the finger. Yeah, but yeah, that's all I got. I really like the way this conversation went. This was a fun little chat. Yeah, this is cool, man.
Yeah,
That's
I
all.
love that.
No. And if you're not already following us, make sure you follow us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram at The Comic Lounge. You can follow Jen at Life of a Geeky Mind on Instagram. And don't forget to hit the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video goes up. Hit the subscribe button, throw those comments down below. And on that note, we're out.